Hey, so we got a trailer for Tekken 8 yesterday. Well, when I'm recording this yesterday. And it seems like a lot of people are worried about the new things they showed, which is understandable. It looks very different. Looks kind of 2D-like for some people, but that's beside the point. But I recently just found a video from my friend FDX who explained the concerns people have with what we saw in the trailer. And I think it's a really great video, but I disagree with some things he said, and I feel like he's not painting the full picture on everything. So I'm gonna go and nitpick his video, but like I said, I do enjoy it very much, and go subscribe to him if you haven't. Alright, let's get right into it. He's just gonna give an intro, show what's new. I'll let you see it just in case you haven't.
Hey everyone, it's FDX. The Tekken 8 trailer just came out, and they teased some new mechanics that I want to explore from a competitor's perspective. Timestamps are below, play it in 2x speed if you need to. Let's get started. Here's an interview with Harada on IGN. This is what he says about the new heat system. The key word to relay the concept for the battle system is aggressiveness. This is something we focused on in all the various elements of the gameplay. Fighting games are kind of an interesting genre because it's you and another human opponent in most cases, right? Say if somehow you're both able to block 100% of attacks, then the match itself wouldn't progress because nobody would do damage.
A lot of people have been having problems with that statement, and yes, that is a completely unrealistic scenario, but I think it is just exaggeration to make a point, right? People are taking this a bit too seriously, but it is showing a trend of increasing offense and removing defensive options, which is always very scary. Like, it's hype for new players, but it tends to make veterans scared.
The changes in Tekken 8 come from the team thinking about how they would go about making the game exciting to both play and watch. We felt that the person attacking should be really enjoying the gameplay and enjoying themselves, and to feel like they're at advantage and they have a better chance to win if they go on the offensive rather than turtling up. One other thing.
Yeah, and again, I think you should have fun defending as well, but you got to understand what they're trying to do, which is it needs to be more fun. When someone is turning against you, it's not a lot of fun. But it should also be fun turtling. But they're not saying one is not necessarily saying the other.
The trailer introduces is the new heat system, which is meant to enhance and articulate aggressive, and how that's exactly going to be implemented into the gameplay. I'm going to pull up the trailer here and we'll take a quick look. So you can see that Lars does a forward left kick here, or in Tekken we call it forward 3, and then he cancels into this running animation. So this move does actually exist in Tekken 7, it just doesn't have a follow-up. It's a safe mid that gives a knockdown. But looking at the Tekken 8 trailer, it looks like the recovery of the heat cancel gives him enough time to convert into a full combo. You can see he picks him up here.
Yeah.
Right after, here's Jin doing some kind of running right punch. In Tekken we call it a running 2. You can see that Kazuya blocks it, but the stagger animation makes it look like he's completely unable to act.
Yeah, and I think the unable to act part is really what's scary, but I'll get more into why it's not quite as bad as people make it, even though, yes, being unable to act is a big problem.
This reminds me of a few things Tekken 7 introduced. The first thing is the newest mechanic that came in the latest patch after EVO. The game calls it wall crush, but the community calls it new tactics from the initial announcement. The basic concept is when the defender is at the wall, a wall crush puts them in crouch, and usually at so much frame disadvantage that they have to guess. They can't sidestep, backdash, or press a button. You can see here after I do the move, Jack is minus 21. For reference, the generic fastest move is a jab at 10 frames. So if Jack tries to press anything, he'll get counter hit. There are varying types of wall crushes, but the most powerful ones are Claudio's wall running right punch, also known as a wall running 2, Elisa's wall running 2, and Dragunov's forward left kick, or forward 3. These are all fast, safe, advancing high moves that generate so much advantage.
You forgot about Akuma's one there.
You're now in a forced mix-up. I'll talk about why forced mix-ups are problematic in just a second. The other
okay, so I have an issue with what he said. He said that you can't press, otherwise you'll get counter hit. My issue with that is that means you're saying the Claudio player has to attack, and yes, the Claudio player is plus 21, but he doesn't actually have to do anything, right? As the attacker, you have a myriad of things you can do, and it is not at your advantage as the guy on the receiving end of that to press, but there is nothing saying that you have to do anything, right? The Claudio player doesn't have to use his mix-up opportunity. You can delay things, you can go for another wall crush maybe before actually going for what it is, and most lows that characters that have those running or dashing wall crushes have, they don't tend to have the best lows afterwards. They tend to be low damage, and they don't have any safe lows, really, right? They got a bunch of safe mids and unsafe mids, right? But it is not in your favor to crouch there, which is exactly why maybe you'd want to crouch, right? There is still quite a lot of mind game to be had. And the issue with that mind game is that when you're the attacker, since your opponent is fully aware of the situation and of the canned mix-up, you might not want to take that mix-up. Which means that if they don't take their mix-up, you can press as the receiving player. It is a deep layered mind game, but it is not a you cannot do anything. It is just very much not in your favor to do anything. And that's my issue with FDX's analysis of this. I get it, but you don't have to be counter hit. You don't have to do anything. It is still a choice. They're limiting the decision tree, right, by making the risk reward balance a certain way, but there is no force to do anything. Still, even in a situation like this, it is not forced.
Fastest move is a... This trailer reminds me of our Tekken 7
Yeah, so then he goes into rage drives.
in just a second. The other mechanic this trailer reminds me of are Tekken 7's plus frame rage drives. The two immediate examples are Claudio's rage drive and Lars's rage drive. Claudio's is a safe mid-mid string that cancels into a forward dash. He has big frame advantage after, +7 if you're a curious nerd like me. So not only is it a free launch attempt for Claudio, but the defender has to guess a mix-up right after. Lars's rage drive is similar, except that he's forced into a stance and doesn't have all of his offensive options, but you're still at so much of a disadvantage that he can't be interrupted, he can't be moved around, and you have to just guess the mix-up.
And yeah, these are the most similar to what we saw from the heat mechanic, and I get that. In Lars's case, since he's stuck in the stance, it's really not in his favor to not enforce that mix-up, but I've seen plenty of Claudio players do rage drive into nothing, meaning that as the receiving player on that end of the mix-up, you can pretty much do whatever because the Claudio player wouldn't do anything.
Lars's rage drive can even lead into a wall crush, so if you get hit, you have to guess again. So why is this
Again,
kind of
it's a
mechanic
guess.
concerning? In the past, Tekken was heavily built on the idea of earning your mix-up. The Tekken 7 has way less of this, but I can actually demonstrate it briefly here with these two legacy characters. So I'm controlling Jin on the left, and here's Kazuya on the right. Kazuya has a strong 50-50 mix-up. He has his low sweep that knocks you down, called his hell sweep, or his forward left kick, a mid that launches you and starts a combo.
Yeah, he's going to say the timing is relatively similar. I don't know. If my opponent isn't conditioning me properly, I feel like I can get up when my opponent does forward free.
Similar, so
forward
it's a true
free, I mean.
50-50. Except,
True,
both of these
I don't think it's
moves
a true
are beaten by
50-50.
sidestep left.
Yes, they both lose to sidestep left. But that's beside the point anyway. Reactions aren't the
So if
point
you
of
have
this.
a read that Kazuya is going for a mix-up between these two moves, you don't have to guess. Tekken lets you sidestep to beat both. So in high-level Tekken, an obvious Kazuya mix-up will lead to an easy sidestep left launch. How does Kazuya counter this? Well, a sidestep is only evasive for a brief window. You can check out this video for an in-depth dive on the mechanics. So if Kazuya delays his attack and dashes again, his next attack will catch that sidestep. Notice how I'm sidestepping when he dashes up into me, but because he delays his attack, it ends up following me.
Yes, very true. Very important part of Tekken.
Delaying your attack realigns that attack. So the mind game for the defender is, do I sidestep just as Kazuya dashes at me, or do I think he's going to realign his mix-up, wait one dash, and then sidestep? Or if Kazuya is just dashing in my face trying to read my sidestep,
here's where I'm going to get the issue.
What if I try to hit him, and he decides to stand still, and then I get whiff punished?
Yeah, see, this is my main issue of this video, is he's presenting an FF3 to Hell Sweep mix-up, and he includes the solutions, but what if he doesn't do it? Well, then it's not the same mix-up, because you just got punished by him not doing it. That's not part of the mix-up. Him not doing Hell Sweep, or not doing FF3, if he's not doing either, then it's not the same mix-up. You know, he's mixing up his timing, sure, but it's not the mix-up of the move itself, right? And pressing can be very risky, which is why Tekken is more of a defensive game. And also, he's saying to beat FF3 and to beat Hell Sweep, use sidestep. That's the answer. And then there's, attacking if he delays, or if you attack, then there's another risk, which is, again, another layer, right? But that's not, sidestepping is not the only answer to beat Hell Sweep and FF3. I mean, we want Tekken sidesteps to be strong. Tekken 7 having bad sidesteps was not well received, and I personally like moving around. It's part of Tekken. But it is not the only answer to Hell Sweep in FF3. Unless you are, I guess, in a situation like the Wall Crush, what new tactic, or whatever shenanigans they have in the heat system from the trailer, in the neutral like this, which is the situation he's showing there, you can press keep out to beat his 50-50. Then if he waits, he can beat your keep out. But keep out is what beats the 50-50. You can't say him waiting is part of the 50-50, because it's not. I'm going to throw up a quick image on screen that will more or less explain what I mean. I can go more in depth on that in a different video. Other people have made videos on it. It's called the San Sukumi. Look it up. But it's pretty much, this is pretty much how choices are made in Tekken, to sum it up. But yeah, there are other solutions. And when they are saying that they want players to be aggressive in Tekken 8, maybe what they're saying is they want to encourage more keep away attacks rather than just raw defense. You know, there's a lot of crushing in Tekken 7 that people weren't fans of, like Lucky Chloe up forward free, and, you know, it just moves that just generally crush instead of blocking. You know, the way Kaiser plays Chloe, for example, with the backswings. And I need an example that's not Chloe, but I think you get my point anyway. Like, sidestepping is not the only option to beat those mix-ups. Aggression can beat those mix-ups in the neutral like this. He's saying, oh, you got to earn your mix-up because they can sidestep. There's much more layers to earning a mix-up like that.
And this is just for one 50-50 mix-up. This kind of option countering rapidly changes depending on the spacings of each character. Because each character's threats change depending on the spacing they're at, you have to know specific sidesteps for specific moves at specific timings depending on the spacing you are at versus that one character. This is the beauty of earning your mix-up in Tekken. Old Tekken's heavily...
Again, very true. I just want to emphasize, that's not the only option. Movement being a very powerful option to beat things in the game is very important, and I don't want them to remove that. But offense, or being offensive, which means attacking, but attacking defensively, you know, is also an option.
Rewarded a deep understanding of what options your opponent wanted to cover, and then punishing them for those specifically. This is why you see old high-level Korean gameplay showing mostly forward dashes and sidesteps. Players are threatening mix-ups with their forward movement and seeing how the defender is stepping or swinging. That tells the attacker what options the defender is looking for, and gives information on timing and strategy, assuming you know your options and the opponent's. So for example, if I know that you're trying to sidestep my mix-up, I might just dash in and see what you do. If you sidestep again, I know you're looking for that mix-up specifically, so I can choose something else that'll hit you. It's no longer just reading attacks, but also reading movement patterns and defensive patterns to get in your opponent's head. All of this is built on a flexible neutral game where you have all of your movement options available to counter multiple attack options. But the counter is if you're wrong and get red, you can get hit. If you try to press your way out of this movement-based game, you can whiff or get counter hit and lose a ton of HP. So in these new...
Yes. Completely agree with that. That is one of the things that makes Tekken very beautiful. But he is omitting one thing that they did all throughout this Tag 2 clip, which is press keep out buttons. They were pressing down forward ones, double jabs, like single jabs, just here and there.
Heavily rewarded a deep understanding.
The way they're jabbing, it's not really to avoid... To start offense, it's to stop their opponent coming in to be able to enforce their mix-ups. Pressing is also part of avoiding offense. Keep away can be the answer. It doesn't always have to be waiting in patience. Although we are seeing a degradation of these waiting and patience options in favor of keep away and in favor of offense beating waiting and actually beating keep away a bit more.
First mixed up situations, the defender loses access to sidesteps or button challenges.
Yeah.
Normally that's not terrible, but the worst part is that the move that leads to that situation, so when Claudio does his rage drive before he gets that mix-up, that move itself can't be sidestepped or backdashed reliably. Even if I know when Claudio is going to do his rage drive,
Okay, let's actually move back to the to this part where he goes with the new tactic.
Steps or button challenge.
I want to emphasize they don't have to go for a mix-up there, because going for a mix-up in a situation like this is extremely predictable, right? If you know the risk reward of the character, if they don't mix up their timing and they just do it on the timing of you waiting there because they're forcing you to wait, then it becomes too obvious. And then if they try to mix up their timing, then that opens up the opportunity for you to do something. But again, it is not in your favor, and that's why he's right, and making this video was a very good thing, is that yes, it is very much not in your favor. What I wanted to add is that doesn't mean that you can't do it anymore.
Normally that's not
the
terrible,
option is
but the
still
worst part
there.
is that the move that leads...
Hey, I had to add this part in a bit after I recorded the rest of the video, but what I'm trying to say is there's more than one option to beat something. And the new heat cancel system looks like there would be no real good option to beat such mix-ups. But I want you to look carefully at the trailer. And this is all speculation, and that's all we've been doing this whole time, really. But you see how Kazuya's glowing orange right there? He's also glowing orange on just a regular back three that comes right after it. Now, could that be a heat-based defensive option, and the orange glow is just to let you know when you can activate it, and they just choose not to show it to us in this trailer? I don't know, because in other games that have hyper offense, like, I don't know, you go Guilty Gear Strive or whatever, you don't just block in that game. You have blocking, parries, invincible moves, faultless defense, and a million defensive options. They are leaning towards the trend of more offense equals better, but they have plenty of great defensive options. Now, I was presenting the defensive options we have now, which are more varied than FDX was saying, but actually they could also do more offensive, because like he could like blow up, and like he could like do an animation after he blocks when he glows orange. We don't know, but they could add more spectacular defensive options to the game. And again, this is a 1 minute trailer with about 45 seconds of gameplay, so let's speculate together, guys. So back to the FDX video.
Before he gets that mix-up, even if I know when Claudio is going to do his rage drive, I can't sidestep it in either direction. So even if I've taken the time to understand his timing and learn his offense, because of the power of that button, I have to sit there and guess.
See, like, he is saying, oh, I can't sidestep it, so it's free. Even if I've learned his timing. If you learned his timing, just counter hit the bastard, right? In a situation where he does back free into rage drive, right? You know he's in rage, it's very scary, but he just did back free. Sure, he could then sidestep hop kick you if you try to keep away. There's plenty of things you can do. But if you just counter hit him or press a button, meaning that you're on the offensive, he can't just throw that shit out. Keep away is a very important option.
A true no-risk launch attempt. And
again, it's not. It doesn't have to be no risk. If you know the timing of your opponent, it is not completely no risk. It is low risk, I'll give you that. It's a very fast move, and if it's blocked, nothing happens. Well, not nothing happens. Actually, it's in his favor if you block it. But
if he
like I
fails
said,
that launch attempt, it turns into an unavoidable mix-up.
You can fail that launch attempt by more than just blocking.
Even if they have incredible defense, even if they have incredible reads, their observation is on point, their conditioning is really strong. Because of the power of this button, they're forced to sit there and flip a coin. And as the attacker, instead...
Yeah, you flip a coin after the move. Before the move, a lot is happening. It's like when you see that Jin running 2 in the trailer into cancel, that's very scary. You could step that move before it happens, and then you're not in that that forced mix-up. Or you could counter hit him as he's doing a running move. People get floated doing running free all the time. I want to emphasize keep away is a very important option, but it's a risk and you have to be careful trying to do it.
Instead of moving to gain info and try and threaten options to understand what your opponent is doing, moves like these create a situation where it's better to just press it and hope that it works. Because it's so safe, you're not going to get killed for it, and the reward is so high, you can pretty much kill your opponent just by hitting that move. This is a...
And yes, that is the pretty much fucked up part about it, is how much reward you get if it does work. But yeah, when an opponent's waving at you like that, in Tekken Tag 2, they're jabbing, like I said in the clip and I showed it, right? They are jabbing to limit the opponent's movement and go back on the offensive. You don't have to do a keep out hop kick, right? You can keep out jab, keep out down forward one, and stop that. In Tag 2, movement was so good that doing that was a lot riskier. In Tekken 7, we're at a point where sidestepping is not as good, so you can just keep away poke to stop an opponent moving forward. And then it just becomes layers of mind game. If they do keep away, you wait to beat the keep away. If they're waiting, you go on the offensive because they're letting you go on the offensive. And that's just the circle of life, basically.
A concerning trend that each patch of Tekken 7 seems to add in. Bakuram's jet kick is a high homing launching move that gives frame advantage. Noctis's Shadow Scissors is a safe, mid, unparryable, evasive, advancing counter hit launcher. The risks of these moves are either non-existent or require a super hard read from the defender, and that's way less interesting than rewarding skillful decision-making from the defender, skillful observation to understand what the opponent's attack patterns are. The new...
And again, I agree with that, which is why I think this video is great. Like I said at the beginning, I'm nitpicking a lot, but this is the main takeaway you want from this video, that yes, we're moving towards a bad trend. And the decision making is getting lowered. I'm just trying to say it's not as bad as it's usually portrayed, but I do agree with what he's saying.
Heat system looks like an extension of this design philosophy, where if you're going to beat it, it either has to be a super hard read, or you're just going to have to sit there and get... philosophy, where if you're going to beat it, it either has to be a of this design philosophy, where if you're going to beat it from the defender, skillful observation to understand what the opponent's attack patterns are. The new heat system looks like an extension of this design philosophy, where if you're going to beat it, it either has to be a super hard read, or you're just going to have to sit there and guess a mix-up after. In total, this would just reduce the amount of interaction in games. If you saw the EVO Grand Final between Knee and Khan, you'll notice that Knee is mostly backdashing and jabbing. And the reason is, it's simply too risky to try to impose an offense on Geese. His ability to blow you up for almost any option while being able to employ an offense of his own very safely makes it so the defender is forced to interact as little as possible. And that's...
Now, what he's saying there is kind of that the defensive options are too good. In a way, that's what he's saying there. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's the truth of it, the Tekken 7's defense is too good, right? But Geese having insane punishment and the ability to parry, right, makes it super risky for you to attack. And it's limiting interaction. So from that statement, do you not see why the Tekken team wants to promote more offense? Like, just from that statement alone, that it's limiting interaction, that defense is too good. I think now we understand the design philosophy. Not necessarily saying they're implementing it in the best way, but yeah, I mean, if defense is too good, it's a problem. The issue is that having defense that's that good comes not just from the game, but it's something that is much harder to develop as a player. Good defense is usually the difference between a very skilled player and a good player. And that's why removing that is so controversial. Now, I feel like I've exposed the problem in better terms, but not actually offered a solution and rambled a bit. But I pretty much agree with V here. It's just, I would like to present it in my words, so that's what I'm doing.
That's the disadvantage of these design philosophies. If the attacker has that much power, the best decision statistically for consistent gameplay that a defender can make is interacting as little as possible with that. Now, to be fair, we don't know if Tekken 8 will improve the movement system in order to...
Yeah, that's what, pretty much what he was saying. It's the defender has to not interact a lot, but he's defending because his opponent's defense is so good, which is kind of weird to think about in a way. But that's what's happening. He's afraid to be blown up, so he's defensive, so he has to interact less. It's very hard to pinpoint, is the issue defense being too good or offense not being good enough or offense being too good? It's very hard to pinpoint. And yes, the current trend is that, yeah, we need to be able to press more buttons to fix that issue for it to be more fun. But again, defense isn't... It feels like it's more on the player than on the game. And taking that agency and that skill-based expression away is where the problem lies.
To mitigate this, but based on the trailer, it looks like more characters are gaining access to this kind of low-risk offensive pressure. One of Tekken's cornerstones was giving the defender agency if they learn the proper sidestep timings, make tight observations, and execute their reads cleanly. Instead, I'm worried that we're moving towards like anime-style defense where we hold a block in the corner and just try to guess right.
Yeah, anime-style defense. The good anime games tend to have good defensive options and varied defensive options. Like, if you're thinking of like early seasons of DB fighters, then yeah, you were blocking for like 45 seconds. But there are plenty of anime games that are great because their defensive options are so varied. It's not just sit there and block. The offense is crazy, but you have the tools necessary to beat that. So the offense is more fun because it's crazy and there's more you can do. So buffing offense is something I'm personally for, but we need the defensive tools to be able to deal with that. Now, limiting sidesteps in Tekken 7 was a big problem and a step in the wrong direction. Like, they could have maybe buffed offense and left movement how it was. I don't know how they would have done that. I'm not a game designer, and that sounds like a pretty tall order. But yeah, more offense isn't necessarily the problem. It's less defense that is the problem.
Bit of a dilemma here because this new design pattern seems to sell really well. Like, having a strong character that can hit the opponent and force them into your situations is really fun as someone picking up a game. But I'm of the belief that the competitive scene really drives hype and sustains a game throughout its life. Look at Super Smash Bros. Melee, look at League of Legends. Like, having a strong esport competitive scene where the highest level of play is interesting, deep, and really captivating seems to be really core to keeping a game alive. And I'm worried that this new offensive, aggressive focus that the developers are talking about in interviews is going to be detrimental in the long run to the depth of Tekken and to keeping it alive in the long term. That said, Tekken 7 sold and is continuing to sell really well, so yeah. I'm not really a business person, I just play the game.
And yeah, the issue is that on a 1-minute trailer, just assuming the game will be less deep is a bit too pessimistic for me, so that's why I felt I needed to do this video. I wanted to say, I understand the problems, but I truly believe Tekken 8 will be an amazing game. We've been playing Tekken 7 for the past 6 years. It's been the most successful Tekken ever, and people were complaining about very similar things before it came out. And it seems to have been the best Tekken, according to many people. Like, I was also a fan of Tekken Tag 2. I was also a fan of Tekken 5. But the most successful Tekken was Tekken 7. So obviously they're going to try and do more of that. And I personally believe Tekken 7 was great. So I am hyped for Tekken 8. In spite of the decisions that seem very strange at first, I am sure it will work out.
Anyways, let me know what you thought in the comments. Hopefully this video was exciting and interesting. Hit subscribe if you want to see more. I do a lot of analysis on pro games and my own games, and hopefully you guys can learn something. I'm FeedyX, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Great job, FeedyX. Well, I hope you watch this video and you enjoy it like I enjoyed yours. And if you guys watching also enjoyed it, like, share, and subscribe to my channel as well. Don't forget his. He probably put in more effort than I did into making his video. So on that note, guys, I will see you next time. Goodbye.